In terms of building, we haven't really seen much impact because most of our buildings are either early stage or towards completing the building. But I do hear people in the building industry are struggling to get windows, for instance, from China. And if you do get materials from Japan and the like, most likely some of the spare parts were actually coming from China, so it has an impact. And if you happen to be building that requires a workshop drawings from China, the whole production stops completely there. Now we do see a surprising inquiries of our buyers from China, I mean in a massive way, and in fact that this is the next level of buyers that we haven't seen before. People who are buying the $3 to $5 million range and making a decision within a day. And so February has been a very strange month for us because our sales have actually been the highest sales for the whole financial year. And we're not quite sure the main reason, and some people speculate. I guess the coronavirus has compelled people to think about living outside or having a second home away from China. Now, I can't pinpoint that, but that's what we are seeing there. In terms of our, of course, production of materials and of course the price of material, we have to factor it into our future production because building material will rise up, and which also means that the price of building will also have to be factoring the new rise of construction costs. Yes.
So the prices for your apartments will go up?
It has to be, because if the material goes up by 5% and materials that are critical, and importantly also, it's also the delay in our job, because if the windows are not coming on time, if the delay is 2 or 3 months, that has to be factored into the building price or the apartment price towards the end.
And how much do you think the price could go up?
Well, right now we're seeing a single-digit growth, like 9 to 10% growth. Right now in February, and
just for the month.
Exactly, yeah. So I'm not surprised that we are going to see the double-digit growth in the next 1 or 2 years.
Adding the impact of the coronavirus to that, it could worsen the contraction in the construction industry.
I think it will. Yes, it will worsen the contraction because simply that there's less and less people building.
Are you expecting to see a recession in Australia because of the coronavirus?
I'm not thinking about that recession is going to hit Australia. I think the rebound is coming. I think it will rebound back very quickly. I mean, we've had always crises in the past, like GFC, that global financial crisis. It was some industry, it was a catastrophe for them, but some industry, they're actually doing well.
Well, would you like to see, instead of a stimulus from the federal government targeting specific industries such as tourism and education, should it be more broad-based, like the stimulus we saw from the Rudd government to counter the impact of the global financial crisis?
I'm not convinced that one policy can actually address the whole thing, and I think oftentimes one quick policy like the Rudd government in terms of building a school does not benefit other industry, and in fact that it actually, I don't think that was a wise thing, because we end up being a country that is very good at building school. That's not really where we want it to be. I think we're better off spending the money where it needs to be targeted, and perhaps stimulus is not the only solution. Changing the policy is a better way, and I don't really believe that this coronavirus will continue more than 6 months. Just like anything, you deal with it and you move on, and I think a better way is actually looking at it. But the longer term that I can see is that I think it's also good for the government together with the private industry that you can't, in the past that we used not to rely on one supplier. Now we're talking about not relying on one country. We're becoming dependent on one country, and everything that government is talking about, it's going to China. Nothing wrong with that, but that was probably something that we need to refute, to say, hey, there are rising markets like Indonesia, Vietnam, Cambodia, that we need to start thinking, hey, there are places that in Europe that are also supplying things, even though it may be more expensive, but you need to think that way, because otherwise you'll end up with this same problem again, and the impact is too big to correct within a short time.